Bienvenidos. Welcome to the 47th annual convening of one of the most enriching experiences in our community, the celebration of diversity and traditions known as Tucson Meet Yourself. I am Supervisor Betty Villegas, and on behalf of the Pima County Board of Supervisors and all the residents of our beloved community, I am happy you can join us. Pima County is a mix of ancestral cultures with lifetime and longtime residents and our new arrivals, all sharing the air, the land, and the history of the beautiful Sonoran Desert. Lucky for us, we also share the foods, dances, music, manual arts, and rituals of dozens of different cultural communities and folk groups, all of which call Pima County home. Every year, Tucson Meet Yourself, sometimes referred to as TMY, is our community's shared big tent where we discover, respect, and celebrate each other. Congratulations and thank you, Tucson Meet Yourself organizers, for adapting this year's 2020 festival to the new public health precaution guidelines. This year, TMY has reframed the event to include a socially distanced virtual experience that offers each of us an opportunity to be connected while remaining safe. There is so much beauty, strength, and resilience in every one of our cultural traditions, and I encourage you to join us in support and celebration of them all. Please enjoy all the offerings, and remember, we will get through all the challenges because we are Pima County strong.
Welcome to this program, part of the 2020 edition of Tucson Meet Yourself Reframe. I want to take this moment to thank our sponsors. Without their generosity, none of these wonderful offerings would have been possible. First, our major sponsors: Pima County, the City of Tucson, the National Endowment for the Arts, the Arizona Commission on the Arts, the Arts Foundation for Tucson and Southern Arizona, and the University of Arizona College of Social and Behavioral Sciences, and the Southwest Center. In addition, I want to thank our presenting sponsors, businesses that stuck with us even in these difficult times. Thank you to Cox, Tucson Electric Power, Visit Tucson, Desert Diamond Casino, and Chicanos por la Causa. Enjoy the program.
Hello, and welcome to Tucson Meet Yourself. My name is Kate Alexander, Performance Curator for the festival, and I'm so glad you've joined us for Traditions Thursdays, a series of online conversations and demonstrations celebrating and exploring the performing arts. Traditions Thursdays are presented by Cox, who we thank for their generous support. Many thanks as well to Adam Cooper-Turan, our digital producer, and our interpreters. We acknowledge also that the festival is located on the traditional lands of the Tohono O'odham and Pascua Yaqui peoples and utilizes the resources of these lands. We recognize our responsibility to them as the original and current caretakers of this land, water, and air which we occupy. In this 47th year of Tucson Meet Yourself, and on behalf of myself and the entire team behind this reframed virtual festival, thank you for being part of this community and for your ongoing support. Tucson Meet Yourself has always been free and open to the public, and we'd like to keep it that way. This festival is for you, and we ask your help to support the continuation of this Tucson tradition. If you can, please consider making a donation at tucsonmeetyourself.org/donate. Today, on this final Traditions Thursdays event of the 2020 festival, I'm so pleased to welcome you to a conversation centered around a ceremony with long-standing significance to Tucson Meet Yourself, a Yaqui ceremonial blessing. Since 1974, this blessing has been offered by members of the Pascua Yaqui at the close of TMY. The relationship of trust between the Yaqui and Yoeme people and festival organizers is such that TMY is one of the only non-indigenous public settings in which this sacred ceremony is sanctioned. Elders in the Pascua Yaqui tribe have described the ceremony at TMY as a gift offered for the healing of the community and for a new year of health and prosperity. We cannot enact the ceremony online, as visual and audio documentation of the protocols violates Yaqui spiritual practices and traditional authorities. Instead, we offer an opportunity for the larger community to learn more about an important facet of our region. In conversation, you'll hear from Xavier Flores, grandson of the Moro mayor Don Pedro M. Flores Sr., who led the Yaqui blessing at TMY for over 4 decades, and our festival program director and University of Arizona folklorist, Dr. Maribel Alvarez. Welcome.
Thank you for that great introduction, Kate. Well, it's been a month of activity for the Reframe Tucson Meet Yourself, and it has been, as Kate mentioned, the tradition that on the Sunday afternoon at around 4 o'clock, we all gather for what is a very special part of the festival, a blessing from our Yaqui friends, community members, relatives, kinfolk. And it's a beautiful moment. A lot of people from the community gather. And for 40 years, 4 decades, this ceremony, this blessing was offered by Don Pedro Flores, who worked with Big Jim Griffith, the founder of Tucson Meet Yourself. And when the Lord called Don Pedro to a higher plane of existence, to a blessed life, we were worried for a while that the opportunity will not continue for us to work in the continuity of the tradition with his knowledge and his teaching, and the group of young men that he had been training for years to carry on this very sacred and very private communal tradition. One of the reasons that the Yaqui relationship had built with Don Pedro over the years and Tucson Meet Yourself was a sense of trust, a sense of community presence and blessing. So we thought, how are we going to reconstruct that from the get-go? Because the relationship of sacred activity in a public setting requires that kind of trust and familiarity and kinship. And lo and behold, I quickly learned that Don Pedro had left someone behind him to take the lead and who had instructed him, his godson, Xavier Flores, to take on this responsibility that Tucson Meet Yourself had meant for him for many years, to bring this public blessing to Tucsonans, Pima County residents. So, Javier, here we are. You and I then started forging our own friendship. Since Don Pedro and Big Jim had it for 40 years, you and I have barely started for the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah. And I'm delighted that you and I now share this space of friendship. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what was the process of you growing up in the spiritual with the spiritual obligations as a Yaqui young man, and under the mentorship and care of your uncle and godfather, Don Pedro Flores.
Well, thank you very much, Maribel, and everybody who's gotten together to put this together for us. As you said before, as your opening speech, it is something that was very dear to not only my tata, Don Pedro, and to you guys, but as well to the community that don't get a chance to very often to come see the cultural part of our traditions there. Then it's unfortunate that it's not gonna be viewed this year, but throughout the years we still hold as much as we can and stay close to our cultures and traditions, which is just kind of like a behind closed doors event for us community members, so we can still uphold our tradition and our ancestors on what they left us behind. For me growing up, it was back time, it was a different time when I was growing up. There was a lot of violence, a lot of drugs and alcohol, like a lot of people go through, and you had a choice. I was choosing the wrong path, and I was fortunate enough that the older people in front of me shooed me away, kind of, and pointed me into a different direction. Said that you don't belong here. You're not part of this group. You need to do something better with your life. So then, as I was growing up, I was lucky and fortunate enough to meet Don Anselmo Valencia, one of the founders of the Pascua Yaqui tribe. It was something, I guess, that my dad had felt inside his heart, and he knew that his boys were something special. And one day we ended up going for a walk, and I didn't know where to, but my dad said, "Let's go for a walk." And we ended up going to a house, and there was a gentleman there, and he was waiting for us outside. And they introduced him to us, and it was Don Anselmo Valencia. And he took us in to do the teachings on the traditions and the cultural part of our heritage. And I was only 5 years old when I began to understand and learn some of the cultures and traditions. I veered off of it for a little bit, and then I came back onto the right path because, again, I was fortunate enough to have friends and older people in the community who would look out for me, and that wasn't very common in those days. So I was very blessed and fortunate that they steered me in the right direction, and I'm very proud now that my grandfather's up there in the heavens watching down. I'm pretty sure he's proud at how I'm upholding his tradition on what he had asked for me, without me not even knowing that I was going to be next in line for him to hold up his tradition on his legacy and what he had left behind.
Javier, and what did that training entail from childhood to later on when you re-enter the spiritual path as a young adult? What is it the language, the songs? Is it an initiation of knowledge that you acquire from other members of the colencia? Can you tell me a little bit about the learning and how does it evolve over the span of your life?
Yeah, it's the learning experience was I didn't understand what the culture was. I just knew, oh, we got Pascua dancers, we got deer dancers, we got matatinis, we got coyotes. Okay, I grew up watching it, but I never really understood it fully until once I became a part of it. And once I became a part of it, it took me as a whole. I wanted to learn as much as I could. Once I understood it, I wanted to learn everything about it. I wanted to be a part of it because, to me, our culture is who we are. It's our people. It's something that they're going to remember us by for many years to come. It's our songs, the music, the dance. And when I seen the deer dancer, it was always something about the songs that they sang and the way they sang the songs, that how the deer dancer moved to the songs and everything. And again, once I understood how a fiesta worked, what they do, what the songs mean, and what the dances mean, and then I was just drawn for it completely, and it changed my life completely. It kept me straight. It's something that I always wanted to do and pass on, and I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to teach some of this younger generation, not just here in this community, but as well as all the way up to our community in Guadalupe. We have good friends up there now that I'm able to share and pass the songs that were taught to me at one point and pass them on to somebody else, because that's very important to me in my life as my grandfather. He said we need to keep our language and culture alive because one day it might not be here. And when we are forgotten, then they need to remember us by one thing, and that would be our culture, our dances, our songs. And it drove me to kind of preserve as much as I can. So I go upon my ways to go as far as I can go. If I can take a group out to where we have tribal members that don't get to come see and participate in our cultural duties and our ceremonies, then I can at least try to meet them halfway and show the world who Yaquis really are. It's a beautiful culture. It's a beautiful tradition that they left upon us. And I'm just so blessed and proud that I'm a part of it, a big part of it now, as well as in my community. I'm one of the deer singers that a lot of people call me mayor, but I'm only 37 years old and I'm young, and there's a lot of stuff for me to learn still. And being a moro it's a learning process. It's not easy. It's hard, and that's something that I didn't know my grandfather was going to leave to me until that day came, and the people that he told who was going to hold up the tradition for us was going to be me, and they told me. And once we got together and got stuff ready for his preparations for his journey, I was actually told that, your tata left you everything. He wants you to uphold and carry on what he was been doing, and I try my very best. And I miss him so much. I'm sure there's a lot of people that do, and
We miss him too. One of the interesting things is that while this ritual, this blessing, and especially the pascolas and the deer dancer is a very private, tribal, communal ceremony. Don Pedro and the tribal council of the Pascua Yaqui tribe have agreed to present this at Tucson Meet Yourself, where thousands of people get to watch. And we have over the years been able to teach the community how to watch and how to participate in that moment, in that sacred moment, within the boundaries of the proper behavior for ceremonial behavior. For example, no photographs are allowed. But there's a moment when you invite the community to respectfully come together, non-Yaqui community, to join you. And I know that you want to share with us today a little bit about what are the things that people see that while they may not get access as a non Yoeme person to the deep knowledge and symbolism, there is still in the community the desire to educate and to share. And I know you brought some things to share with us about the different things that are worn or that are part of the ceremony. But I use the word colencia as the name for the group that you bring together, a group of men, because I believe women are have other roles in the ceremonial life that is not the colencia. Could you, before we go into the objects, talk a little bit about what is the colencia and how is it that gets constituted?
yes, the colencia is a terminology used for describing a place. Colencia is, from my teachings and understanding, it's a ramada. It's the place somewhere we go. So we identify who's in the colencia. It's oficio regarding to the pascolas, the deer dancer, and our part, and then we have our church and altar society who also participate inside the ramada or the colencia, it should say. Terminology, that's when it's your proper etiquette comes in. But me growing up, I was always taught and learned, just by hearing, oh, it's the colencia. So when we hear colencia, we automatically think pascola, mas, or deer dancer. So that's there's two different parts of the aspects of a colencia, but that's the main different. The main terminology, I believe, is the ramada being colencia. But oficio would be referred to more to us, and then we have our maestros, cantoras, banderas, demestis who will work on the other side of the ramada. So it's open, but it's just like this invisible curtain in between us that we work under the same household, we should say, or the same ramada. And
I've been very blessed and grateful to Daniel Vega from the Pascua Yaqui Education and Culture Department, who has built a ramada at Tucson Meet Yourself as a space for demonstration. When we do the blessing with the deer dancer and the pascolas, we do it on the large stage. And we try to remind people that even though it is on stage, it's not to be treated as a performance. But as indeed, even though it's full of aesthetic, it's full of beauty and movement. So I understand the performative aspect of people seeing the dance, but we remind the public always, this is not a performance. This is now the blessing that will conclude to Meet Yourself. However, in other locations, Daniel and other members of the tribe have helped us build a ramada where some of the musicians of the sacred music demonstrate some of the instruments. I want to give you the opportunity to demonstrate some of the items that are very meaningful for you within the ritual.
Okay, sure. I did bring a couple items to share, and most of the time, like you mentioned before, nobody really gets to see these or take pictures of them or record them like we do presentations, and we'll bring stuff items like that. So it's a little treat that I was able to bring by. And Mr. Vega, Mr. Daniel Vega, yes, he builds that armada there to show you guys how more proper of a traditional blessing on how we would do a bendición or a fiesta or something of that sort. So that's so you can get the understanding of it. And it is a lot of movement, and it is beautiful. So it is very difficult to get confused with a performance opposed to a blessing. But however people take it and interpret to themselves, that's something that we never judge anybody. So we just try to implicate them again, the teachings on what they're seeing and everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this around so we can see some of the items I did bring with me. And again, it's just a few things that I was able to, that I have left from an incident that happened quite some time ago. But I'll explain a little bit about some of the stuff I brought with me here. So here I have the masokova, which a lot of people see, and what the deer dancer wears on his head when he's dancing. And he represents the most sacred animal that the Yaquis believe is the most sacred to us in our culture, because there's a deep connection between us and him, that he's a carrier between worlds, and he takes us and takes care of us. And the flowers on his antlers, there's a song that goes to it, and there's different stories on how these ended up on his antlers. And that's one of the most things that they use, and it's hard to come across those. A lot of other people are most commonly seeing a Pascua mask. This one's an older one that I've had. This is one that my tatas had, and he passed it down. And as you can see, he's kind of put his years of work in. And there's different varieties of Pascua masks. I know there's a gentleman, David Valenzuela, who also is a big Tucson Meet Yourself participant, and he does the wood carving, and he makes custom Pascua masks and traditional masks as well.
The Pascola mask is usually worn on the side of the head by the dancers until there comes a moment in the dance, in particular, where then he wears them. Is that? Yeah, is there any, and they tend to be smallish than what people think. It doesn't cover the full face.
No, it won't cover the full face. It just covers mainly just their eyes, their nose, and their mouth area, because this mask, once they put it on, then they become the mask. The mask, this one's just like it was one of the mayores that used to use this one constantly. And every time he used it, we used him because he was more of a mayor. That the mask has different. They have goats, they have animals, they have different characters as a clown. Because the Pascola is he's like a caretaker for bad energy that comes around and everything around to the fiesta or wherever we're blessing at. And he tends to make all the negative stuff go away. And that's why he dances the way he moves, the way he does. We have crosses on him to protect him, because when you put this on, a lot of people believe that you transform into him and to protect you from him and keep yourself separate in mind and body. Because some stories say that you can become him and get lost mentally. And that's why we need to protect yourself as well.
So you're saying that the Pascola is like a filter.
Yes.
Between the sacred energy of the beauty and the spiritual, and then the real world, and he uses humor a lot
Yeah.
in the movement and in some of the clown functions, ritual clowning functions. Why is humor a good element for the filtration between those two worlds?
Humor, well, as we know, laughter is a big part of medicine for everybody. It keeps a lot of good energy, lots of good vibes around. When you start thinking negatively and you have negative stuff, then that's when bad stuff tends to happen. So we have the Pascola during our ceremonies to constantly make it a happy place, something festive that you can always rely on. He's a storyteller. He's our gesture. He's the one that keeps the fiesta afloat, because without his stories, without him dancing, then there's really no other part in the Polencia there. He would just be another dancer.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a story behind who the Pascola and how we got the Pascola is, and those stories come from different communities. As far as I was raised on the New Pascua Pueblo community, so our elders were a lot different to oppose to the ones that were out here in Barrio Libre, who come down. All of them come down from Sonora, but each part has a different teaching. Each pueblo has different dialects and different stories and aspects on what we do, why we do it, and some of the explanations on them. And these are just some of the ones that were taught to me. But that story about the Pascola, there was one that I heard from another brother of mine from the Barrio Libre community, who understands the same thing but a different teaching. But we do it all for the same reasons. But there's a bunch of different stories that I would love to talk about and give you a story about the Pascola and what he does, the songs he dances to, what the songs mean.
Great. We can come back when we can see your face again, and we can talk. But you are still holding up some items. This is a beautiful piece, and I have seen it worn in the ritual dance. Tell us a little bit about that one.
This one's the Hoporosin. It's one of our protectors for the dancers in the body with the abalone shells, cutting to crosses. Of course, the shiny part is facing out, so if there's anything bad that's coming in, it's just going to reflect and bounce back off. As a lot of people do believe that when evil sees their own reflection, it tends to scare them off themselves. So this is a protection, not only for themselves, but for the grounds that we're on, if we're on a church ground or somebody's houses and everything. It'll protect us and the property, and it's blessed as well. This is handmade. Everything that right here that I'm showing you is handmade from someone that was from Sonora. Everything represents something. Here's the belt that the deer dancers use. And as you see, the hooves are deer hooves. So we try to use everything for the fullest that we can of the animal. And these represent movement. It can represent breathing. It can represent the brushing when the deer's moving, or it all interprets into something into the song once we're singing them. The thinner bodies that they use on their ankles represents all the insect world. Anybody that makes these cocoons, it takes a very long time just to make one little strand. So this is very delicate piece that we have. And one other thing is, this is a gift. The Hirukia right here was a gift from Don Anselmo himself. Once he thought that I was ready to go off on my own, he presented me this Hirukia, and I've had it since I was about 6 years old, 7 years old. I've had this Hirukia, and I use it quite often when I can. And these were just some of the things that I was able to bring, and what I have in my possession right now. It's not much, but again, it's just a few things that a lot of people don't get to really see up close as far as when they're watching a performance or a blessing.
Thank you for being so generous of sharing some of those the special items that represent so much power symbolically for the tradition. Tell us a little bit about the deer dancer, the moment everyone expects and awaits for. The pascolas and the musicians prepare the environment, and then everybody, you can feel the expectation of this. I mean, my heart swells just knowing how people are waiting for the deer dancer to appear. How does a person get selected to become a deer dancer and to learn the movements?
That's it's up to the person who wants to be a deer dancer. If you have it in your heart and you want to do something fully, then you just go out and try it. And if it's something that you catch onto, then you're meant to be. I didn't fully understand I was gonna be a moro slash masobikame mayor. I was just a water drummer. That's what I was gonna play. That was my position when I started. My older brother Pedro, the third, he was gonna be our lead singer, and then my tío Mark, he was gonna be the second. And how things changed was my brother felt it in himself that he needed to do something else. He could dance. So my tío, who passed away last year, I believe, he was a lot of people know him. He was the most iconic deer dancer we had throughout the communities. My tío Luis, they have a little wax statue right here, part of the U of A museum. He's the deer dancer that's inside there. He's the deer dancer.
That's him in the exhibit.
Yes, that's my late tío, and he's the one that we have the statue in front of administrations and our communities as well. And he's seen my brother. He felt it in my brother that if I teach him, I know he's gonna go out and he's gonna go on and continue doing what he used to do. So it's I guess you get picked by an elder, or if you feel it yourself, then you become who you wish to be. That's why I'm glad that the youth that I have right now, these young kids voluntarily came and said, I want to be a pastola. I want to dance. In my generation, we didn't have that. You kind of had to force us and say, hey, you're going to do this. This is what you have to do. And you can't get out of it. Opposed to now the youth is coming voluntarily on their own, saying, I want to dance. I can feel it in my heart. And that's good. And then another little myth that was told to us: when it rains during the day, a little muscle is being born somewhere in the world. So when we have those rainy days during the day and it's all bright, then we're getting blessed because somebody out there is getting born into this world who's going to be one of their next muscles coming up. And there's a lot of good muscles children coming up now. And that's what we're very fortunate with, because at one point we were at a standstill, like how far are we going to make it? Because a lot of our elders are leaving and they're taking the knowledge and wisdom with them. Who's going to be left to teach? And that's why I was fortunate enough to learn as much as I can to pass on whatever I was able to learn and pass it on to the next generation, because I know I'm not going to always be here. And I hope somebody takes after me at one point, like I did for my tata. And my son actually wants to dance. He danced Pascola a few times, and one day he just put the maso traje on, everything from head to toe, and he told me, Dad, I want to dance. I said, okay, if you feel it in your heart, we'll get you going. We'll start letting you dance. And
How old is that boy?
my son, when he first started to learn how to dance and he just started getting dressed, he was about, I would say, in his teens, about 13, 14. And now he's going to be 21 this January. He just became a father himself on the 21st of October. So I guess I became a grandtata, grandpapa. So,
And is he, the word you use for the deer dancer is maso.
maso, yes, that's our terminology for deer dancer. Maso, pascola, tampareo is the drummer, arpero, labeleo, the harp and violin. Masobikame or masobikideos is what we are referred to when we are the singers of the deer dancer. Masobikame is singing, the singers. Masobikideo is a profession that's saying we are professional deer singers. It's the suffix that is explaining your profession at the end of your terminology. Like tampareo is not just, there's two terminologies for, there's tambulero as the Spanish derivative and a tampareo, which means the same thing, but as tampareo, we're referring to as a drummer and a flute player at the same time.
So the way that you describe it is a calling, it's a personal calling, or someone sees in the young man this particular attribute, this quality that says this is, is there a higher level of commitment spiritually to any of these particular roles? Is there a hierarchy there in terms of the spiritual obligations that you take on if you're called to be a deer dancer or a pascola or any other occupation in the oficio?
Well, our oficio is mainly, it's one of the most, ours and Matachin Society and the Coyote Society, the Walk East, it's all our societies are voluntarily. So it's nothing that we have to do for Amanda, or we're gonna have to succeed somebody else just because we have to. It's all voluntarily. So when we do it, the community then starts to recognize you as what you're doing. So we have, throughout the community, they would call me, oh, Javier, Masobikam Yowe. I was like, they're giving me the respect because I've earned the respect from the community, and they're calling me as a main title as a mayor throughout the community through our culture. The same thing will go as a pascola, because the pascola mayor needs to carry the sermon. He needs to do the canario. He needs to do the speech. He needs to give the permission. He needs to ask the permission. And all that he needs to learn, he needs to know the language above, first and foremost, because our language is key to our tradition. And that...
Do those obligations, does that sense of duty and commitment to the tradition, does it extend socially to educate in good behavior, in kindness, in healthy lifestyles across the community? In other words, are these men called sometimes to advise and to counsel young men or older men who may have lost their way? Is there a counseling function inside these community relationships?
Yes, there always is a counseling relation inside this. There's a lot of us do lose our way throughout time. They lose the faith, and it's up to us, because we're all brothers and compadres and close friends inside the oficio, that we're bound to help each other, no matter which community you're in. Everybody's going to have a hardship. Everybody's going to go through some hardship. And when other people, your family, can't be there, then your other family will always be there, and that's the oficio. You can always go to one of us for counsel, or whoever you feel comfortable with. And that has happened. There is a few boys that one of my closest friends did pass away years ago, and ever since his passing, the boys were a big part of our group, and they kind of lost their way. But slowly but surely, they came back and they asked for the counsel, like, how can we do this? How can we get back? I need to get back into things. And we're there for the moral support, and spiritually we're able to guide them, give them the right counsel so they can get back right on the right path, and be healthy and ready, mindset ready to go for when he's called upon to participate once again. Because you got to be of pure mind, body, and soul once you get into the Gamad, because we're there to give a blessing. When we're on our songs, our bendición is, the dancing is a bendición. The music from the tampareo to the harp player to us, it's all one spiritual meaning. And when one loses its focus or gets off the road, then yes, we are here for them to get back on there, no matter which way they're thinking or what the mindset is. We're always going to be here. We'll never leave them.
Tell me a little bit about the young ladies, the women, the girls, and the role that they fulfill in terms of their power as women in supporting this cultural community.
The women that support the community, it's well, without the women, really there's no hop all around, because the women in the community, when it comes to culture and religion, they take care of the church, they take care of the altar, they sing the prayers, helping our maestros that are praying and giving the prayers for the sermon or the bendición or the fiesta. And without the ladies, there's no prayers behind the maestro, which would be, if you put it into retrospect, it would be having a church ceremony without the father giving a ceremony, and we're just in there reading a book or something like that. And without them, it's a big part of helping out and giving the blessings out, as well as not only women, but the men also help inside the kitchen as well, because we grown up and grew and changed with this generation, knowing that women don't just belong in the kitchen where a lot of people have a mindset like that. No, we help them out now as much as we can. We stoke the fires for them so they can make the food, the tortillas that they make throughout the night, the sopas that they're cooking in the back. We help them with the fire, making sure everything's kindled, doing all the heavy lifting, that they can help us when they give the offering, the alimento, to help us keep going throughout the night, throughout the morning. And a lot of people don't understand that, the women they give up a lot, and that's voluntarily as well. It's something they don't have to do, but they volunteer their service to help us in the community continue and succeed and carry on what was passed on and taught to us.
I have witnessed those gender roles being shifted at different times, and it's a beautiful adaptation to the times and the awareness that we have about taking care of each other in a different way that is not as rigid, but still abides by the spiritual principles that were carried on. And this is always one of the questions people ask me a lot about the word tradition. Are traditions things that can be adapted through the times? Do they change? And what is it that you keep of the tradition, and what is it that you adapt is particular to every community. Every spiritual community has to answer that for themselves. There is no imposed definition from the outside.
Yes, that is very much true. We hold as much as closest tradition as we can. I mean, it's something that was passed and taught onto us. I did veer from that tradition at one point, which was, the photos and the recordings and stuff. It became at one point just so overwhelming to always have to run down somebody to say, excuse me, no, but you can't take the picture. And then once we announced it, somebody maybe missed the announcement. And they're recording fully, and I couldn't get up there at the time and say, you can't record or please stop. So I just told everybody at one point, if you take a picture or recording, please keep it to yourself. Do not share it anywhere publicly or internet-wise or anything. And I did that for about a year because I was just frustrated. And then that finally came down. It's like, you need to uphold the tradition and the culture that was passed on, which means, no live sketching, no video recording, no photographs or anything of that sort. The dances, when it comes to, try to get the ones that are as most pure as mind, body, and soul as possible, so we can give the ultimate and the purest blessing we can. And when we evolved and adapt, it was very male dominant in the culture. Women was, like I said before, was just that as being, you guys are gonna be the cocineras, you're gonna be a cantora, and that's it. Now there's much more to it. There's a lot more respect to it because a lot of people understand the hardship that comes on having to be up all night making food, cooking food for hundreds of people. You're feeding somebody every 2 hours constantly, and not many people understood the hardship from the cocineras inside the kitchen or the cantoras that they just say, oh, they just sit there and sing and, they don't do much. You guys are doing a lot. No, they're giving the prayers, sitting there for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. Yeah, it does drain you physically,
Yes.
your body.
And also it's beautiful because there's a recognition of the most uh, humble and simple contributions as being part of the whole. That, like you said, Javier, you couldn't have one without the other, and everybody contributes a role to that concept, to that moment of blessing. Um, I think one of the things that has been most interesting about particularly the Yaqui spiritual tradition is this concept of beauty. How the spiritual universe from the Yoeme perspective is one of beauty, represented in many ways through flowers. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to speak a little bit about this universe of flower and beauty in which the ritual tries to lift up.
Yeah, that referring to it's called Sewa. It's our flower world. It's where we believe it's an enchanted world, and we have different worlds that we believe in, which is each day, each time throughout the day has its own purpose and its own world. During the day, it's a lot of birds and the flowers are nice and bloomy and it's so beautiful during the day. And then when it starts to come down to the evening time, you start to see the change in the evening. You start feeling a little bit cooler. You see different birds come out, different animals starting to come out. And then once you get to the Taiwali part, it's the dawn. It could be referred to dawn or it can be referred to sunrise. And Sewailo is just the right moment between the sunrise where it's the most purest and the most beautiful, where you can see it if you're up and in the right spot. It's just the most purest and beautifulest sunrise that you would ever see. It's just before the sun comes up, but it's not fully, but there's light. You can only describe it, but once you see it, you would understand the definition of Sewailo. And it's it's heaven on earth. It's what we're kind of, I guess it's another terminology we can use to it. And we just believe in the Sewailo because that's what we believe we go to once our time is called.
It's just that moment, just that exact confluence when the two worlds, you can see them flowing.
Yes, this is the sunrise coming together, it's like a new beginning to a new life cycle. And within that precious moment is where you can see the heaven on earth is what our Hiak people, the UN people call it and know by. And again, this is something that I was taught to in my community. You asked this a question to somebody else, I'm pretty sure it will be somewhat similar, but in different explanation terms or something. Because I wasn't fortunate enough to grow up with those elders that I got to meet in my later years, who have now gone and passed and entered the Cerwailo right there with our Senor. I wasn't that fortunate to learn with them, and I wish I was, because I would have had a lot more knowledge. But there are people out there like one of my brothers that I love to sing and bring with me. He participates with me quite a bit here at Tucson Meet Yourself as well. Vidal Molina. He knows, as young as we are, we're 37, but as young as we are, he has a lot of knowledge into the history because he had the fortunate time to grow up when he was little, while those mayores were in his community. So he got to experience different stories, different understanding, different meanings on a lot of different things. So I'm not saying that one person's interpretation is wrong, because it's right. It's just the way that somebody was taught to them. And
That has been a real wonderful part of my own knowledge and education with Yaqui traditions with my friends that include you, but also include Pete Yucupicio, Roberto Valencia, who has been a very dear teacher to me, Cornelio Molina, um, in uh, many ways of teaching that have always left the door open to say, but this is how I see it, and this is how I was taught. But don't close off your mind if another person tells you a little bit of a variation in the story. And I think that we are so used in our dominant society to just have things black and white. You know, it's either this way or that. And I've learned so much from these compañeros to understand that what they're telling me is the knowledge that they were given, but not to ever say this is the way and this is the law.
right.
It's a spiritual teaching that could change and adapt to different storytellers in different forms. And at the same time, when we think about the work that Felipe Molina has done, for example, in recording for posterity, for the archive, some of the dear songs, and he did this with Professor Larry Evers here at the university for a long time. Their attempt, even in those textual, when they capture the text in the Yoeme language and the tradition, there is even an openness in those texts that says, here's what was captured at this particular time in this particular song, but that doesn't mean that this is what you must consult forever. And I have heard Felipe Molina specifically say, that's how I learned that song. And there's something to for all of us to learn about that approach to knowledge. That knowledge is expansive and it can be open-ended without abandoning the core message that you want. So I wanted to ask you, what are some of your favorite the songs that bring you particular comfort and joy in your life from, and if you want to share any with us, we will take it.
Yeah, I was very fortunate enough to learn from a lot of different people. The one that started me off, of course, was Don Anselmo Valencia. Then he taught me some Yaqui Mile songs that he sang throughout his years, and there's some that we still continue to sing on his honor. And then once he kind of put me off on my own, I learned with another mayor of ours, Miguel Flores. He's my tío as well, my tío Miguel. But he became my other teacher, and he taught me everything else that I needed to know to carry on to where I'm at today, song-wise. And then I also was learning from, heard some songs from Mr. Felipe Molina, and I was real fortunate enough to get some of those songs. And some of those songs, they don't really sing no more. And the songs that capture me is ones that have, I guess, meaning to it. All the songs have meaning, but there's certain ones that really, really pop out when you're a new song that I call it new song, even though I probably learned it maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But it's talking about the what it was interpret to me. It's a tree branch that's arced down, and so he's arcing down, and you see like a little arco on the tree, and they call that one movelai. Yeah, movelai means that it's just arcing over, and it's just you just see the arc, and that's what the deer sees as he's walking through the forest.
Mm-hmm.
And I could sing that one for you guys. It's just a Yoeme. So it's gonna sound different. It's just gonna sound like the Hirukia. There's no I am on the bottom of it. So this is one that it's called Movelai. And that's how I was taught that song and that particular explanation to it. Oya movelai, oya sia movelai, oya movelai, oya movelai, oya sia movelai, oya movelai. Oya movelai, oya sia movelai, oya movelai, oya movelai, oya sia movelai, oya movelai. Kaya wai kaya ya banai nana tukuja momovela kapeta. Oya movelai, oya sia movelai, oya movelai. Oya movelai, oya sia movelai, oya movelai. And that song is just is that's what it was talking about. As the deer's walking, he comes across branches that are arched over, and the way the song is sang is the way it sounds content. You sound at ease, like he's just walking and strolling. You can feel it when I sing it. I can feel it because I know what I'm singing about. I know the story, and you just try to interpret it as best as you can because the way you sing it, the muscle tends to move to the music and the way he's moving. So at an easy melody like that, he knows and can feel that okay, this song is talking about something smooth and something that he's just throwing. And once I explain the song or he knows the song, then his movement becomes a lot more pure to the music, to the song.
He's he's um he's reacting to the natural world in which he's moving.
Yes, yes,
And sometimes you can see that in the movements when
yes.
you can see that he's actually shifted, um, and he's paying attention to something that has come, and then the song kind of follows that.
Yes, it kind of captures you. Sometimes we get lost in our own music. I get lost in it because I just get so caught up in the moment that I love the way it sounds. I don't want to stop singing it, and I end up 2-3 verses over before then we're gonna finish. And then the maso he starts. He goes, "You get lost or what?"
Because your signal is like, hey, bring me back.
Yeah, it does, and then sometimes the master does it to us. I'm singing and I sing the tonal part, and he doesn't stop, so he's still dancing. And we say, "Oh, okay, let's keep going." And it's just something that you feel, and when you feel that, then you know that it's meant for you to be. Now, that's something that my dear Luis had taught us one time. If you can feel it, and you can just see it without you, it's weird to explain it. It happened to me one time at a fiesta where I was singing a fiesta, but at some point at the middle of the song, I was happened to be just standing on the outside watching everything, but I was singing. And I explained that to my tío, and he said that that's something that only few people experience, and that's the place that they need to be. And when you feel that, then you're where you need to be at in your life. And that's where I took it more. And I was just about a teenager. I was barely starting out. I would say it was during the recognition bendición, and where that happened, and I was just very intrigued with what happened. And later on the night, I explained that to my tío, and that's where he told me that you're meant to be a singer, and this is what you're gonna be.
Mm.
I said, that's nice. It scared me for a little bit because there are stories that say that the older stories that from the oficial saying that at one point they would put a curtain between the sides between the official side and the church side. And the reason for that is because throughout the night, the story said that the Pascualas and everybody will be shape shifting. into different creatures and animals throughout the night, and it wasn't something that the women and the priests, the maestros weren't able to see. So they would put that curtain up, and that would happen throughout the morning until the sunrise in Alba. Then they'll put the curtain back, and then we come back to it. And that's where, when I heard that, I was like, oh, did that happen to me, or did I experience something similar to that? And it was something similar, but I didn't do the exactly shapeshifting, but I managed to see myself in the moment there, and that's why I'm doing. And I'm fortunate to learn a song as quick as I can. Somebody can sing it to me next to me, and I'm able to pick it up quick, and I can sing it later on that night. And that's just the gift that was bestowed, and I didn't even know.
It's easy to see how powerful the song is as you sang it, the melody, the tones, there's something very powerful. And I think that sometimes people don't understand that some of the restrictions that are placed around the sharing of this information more publicly or reproduced by non-members of the culture has to do with protection, because you're releasing energy. You're releasing energies that could be very powerful if you don't know what you're dealing with. And the beauty of it is that what it teaches, what I see in the teaching, is that the world as it's made can be remade in those confluences where the energy shift. And I think what the Yaqui people teach us is that we all have experienced that intuitively as human beings. We know that there are moments when the energy shifts, right?
Yes, you can feel it
We
inside.
remake the world through, hopefully, through good things, through love and kindness and family and loyalty and honesty. But there's always that slippage, right? Where you have to be careful that that energy doesn't pull you under.
Yes, that is correct. And just a little in depth on how things work inside, and how before we get to the muscles start dancing, just gonna give you a little in depth on how we start out. We first come out from, everybody comes out from the dressing rooms or wherever we're changing. And if we're at the church, we'll go to the Cruz Mayor that's in front of the Ramada. Everybody will go to a group there, bless themselves at the Cruz Mayor. Then they will go into the church altar side at the Ramada. They will give a little prayer and ask the permiso to start doing rendition that we have to do, that we were asked for. Then we will come over to the Ramada part, to where the third chat, and we're all set up. The Pascua then Mayor comes in and gives a sermon to greet everybody, to ask how they're doing, how making sure everybody's in good health, and asking permission from them, from Senor Achay Dios, to get his permission to carry on the permission that was bestowed upon him from the elders, and he asking them permission to carry on and start the fiesta. And he's doing all that in the language, and then once we start, it's the harp and violin that start the entire fiesta. They're the ones that are in control pretty much of the whole fiesta. They select the canarios and the way, and each fiesta or bendición calls for its own different unique songs. There's different songs for there's a velorio that we have to do for somebody that had passed. Those are a whole totally different set of songs, opposed to when there's a infant or somebody of that has passed on. There's a whole different set of songs for adults and kids. So it's very critical from the harp and violin player that we have those two all the time, and not all the time during a presentation or something we're always going to have, because we're so limited on that part now. And we had a lot of mayores that played the instruments that are leaving us and that can't play no more. And we have this new generation that was willing to learn how to take that responsibility on. So without them, we really don't have too much of a oficio. Once those songs are done, then it goes to the tampareo. The tampareo is going to play something relating to what the harp and violin player plays. So if it's a canario, you could play something of a bird. He'll play a bird song. And once the first pascuala is done dancing, then you get to the maso and the maso bricadeos. And we're going to sing a song relating to what the tampareo is playing. So if the tampareo is playing a bird song, I will sing a bird song. So we can all stay, because it's one big story that we got to interpret from each other. And it's at point, sometimes it's very hard. There's fiestas that call for be singing at noon, 11, 10 in the morning, and it's going to go all the way till noon or 11 the next morning as well again. And that's a lot of songs, a special fiesta. We do those type of velorios for Cabo de Año, a Luto Paco, once their year anniversary has passed, because then we're celebrating their life, that they made their trip to the heaven, to the Cerro where they need to be, and we get to celebrate. And that's where you see the juegos come in, like we're able to do one juego for Tucson Meet Yourself. And that's the little skit that you see the Pascualas and the deer dancer.
Yes, you did this last year at Tucson Meet Yourself. It was, I had never seen something like that enacted, and you brought it on the blessing, that game that was being played, and you told the audience, and I had someone whisper in my ear, it's like, we've always had the blessings, but it was very, very solemn. We never had the moment where the maso and the mortal authorize a playfulness like that. And I'm so glad you mentioned it, because I remember how everybody in the audience, which has been at Tucson Meet Yourself year after year, started looking at each other and saying, oh my God, I never saw that particular piece. What made you want to share that particular break in the routine with the community?
That I wanted to do to show, because it's not just three songs and that's it. It's, my tata always said, a bendición is a bendición, whether you do three songs and then you got to do something else. So that's what we do. I put in the fuego so you can see a different aspect on what another type of bendición would be. And that's something where we can do at a big fiesta. This past fiesta that we had, Cristo Rey fiesta, I'm pretty sure I didn't make it to that fiesta, but the last time I made it to one, we were singing juegos and playing juegos because you're celebrating. And Tucson Meet Yourself is something that we've always been a part of. I can say we, because I've come since I was chiquito. I was a little guy walking around this whole place and enjoying the festivities. And then my tata, we would always see him and the guys from Sonora, the mayores that he would bring. We would always love to see them dance after a while. Like, oh wow, this is, so it became a part of us. So I was like, I need to give them a blessing on behalf of us, and as a thank you for letting us show the community, the Tucson community, who Yaquis are, what our traditions are, because a lot of people now know us, hey, Yaqui Charlie, you guys got good casinos, yeah. I don't want to be known as a good casino. I want it to be known as, you got a good culture with you guys. I love the dancing. I love the matachin dancing. I love the pascualas, the maso. I love the singing. I love the violin and harp. All those, when everything's all going together at one, it's so beautiful. And everything's simultaneous. You have matachinis dancing. You have the colencha dancing. You have the maestros and cantoras singing. And everybody's just full circle, full motion. And it gives me some good chills just remembering those times, because it's unique. It's a unique thing. So when I sang the fuego, I told them we're going to do a fuego so we can give a good bendición. And a bendición referring to is the water. I try to express, if we get water on you, we don't mean to offend you. It's a blessing, because that water, once we're singing and everything goes to the water, all our music, all our rezos, the songs, it becomes agua bendita. It becomes holy water. That's why I offer it to the community for them to come and take some home with you. Take a little momentum home with your little token. And you can remember us when you see that water. This is good medicine here, because water is medicine for loads of tribes. Everybody, water is good medicine. We use water for everything.
It's been a sort of a wonderful journey, and I have hopes that we will gather again. And you have been a most generous friend to Tucson Meet Yourself, and thank you for being here today, sharing this conversation with me, and sharing pieces of your life and of your cultura, which are so important. And I love you, and I love the tradition and the people. And I think that we are going to close now. And I'm just going to let you have the last word, just like we do at the festival when the last word is spoken, because to submit yourself on Sundays. We invite you and the Tohono Autumn Desert Dancers as well in two different places, and the last words spoken at the festival before we close are always in the native language. Um, Telma Javier helps with the Tohono Autumn Dancers. Last word is on autumn. And then you in the stage, last word is the blessing in Yaqui. And then after that, lights out. To submit yourself is done for the year until the next year. So I'm gonna symbolically reenact the last word would be from you, Javier, as a blessing in the Yoeme language.
Pues, primeramente, le damos gracias, Señor Jesucristo, Virgen María, María Santísima, todos los santos de Virgen, descansen en los santos cielos, nuestro Señor, todos los antepasados que lo cuiden en este valle de lágrimas en nuestra vida. Le damos las gracias a todos los participantes, toda la gente, los voluntariamente que están aquí trabajando, ayudando. Le pedimos que le trae ese santo alivio, esa santa bendición, Señor Jesucristo, a ellos, a cada uno de su familia. Le piden que lo cuide a cada uno de nosotros en este mundo durante este pesado día del virus que está aquí. Le pedimos que le cuide la luz durante la comunidad, el pueblo aquí de Tucson, Arizona, los más queridos. En tu nombre lo demos en tu mano, Señor Achay. Dichi Padre, Virgen María, María Santísima, y todos los santos y virgen descansen en los santos cielos. Una vez más, le damos muchísimas gracias a cada uno de ustedes, el Señor Achayola. Thank you very much for.
Thank you, Javier.
Very much, Maria Beth. It's something sort that we couldn't fully show the community once again this year, but God willing, with these next few years coming up, we will be back stronger with a lot more faith and the whole community once everything is settled down. And we just ask the Creator to watch over us, the whole community, all the Tucsonans and Arizonans, because we're all one big community under here. And we just ask that you stay safe, stay healthy, keep in mind of others, practice your social distancing. And as our community, we're supposed to be on a lockdown unless you're working. So, it's tough. We know the hardship it is for everybody. So you're not alone out here, and we're in this together, and the Creator will take care of us. You just got to keep the faith and stay strong. And thank you very much. And we look forward to you guys next year. Hopefully we'll be on the big stage.
Gracias, and thank you to all of you for participating of this wonderful conversation. Be safe, and we will look forward to Tucson Meet Yourself 2021. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.